There comes a moment in every soul's journey when betrayal cuts deeper than any weapon ever could. It doesn't just shatter trust, it shakes your entire sense of reality. You wonder how someone you gave your heart to, your loyalty, your truth, could twist it, discard it, and leave you standing in the ruins of everything you thought was sacred. But that's not the end of the story. Because while others lit the fire with their lies and deception, God didn't let it consume you. He let it forge you. That fire became your awakening. What was meant to destroy you became the divine process of purification. Your pain became purpose, and the betrayal that was supposed to be your downfall, it became the birthplace of your power. God didn't just save you from the fire, He made you the fire. Betrayal as catalyst, not curse. Betrayal has a way of arriving unannounced, often wrapped in the disguise of closeness. It doesn't strike from a distance. It comes from the places and people you let in. That's what makes it so disorienting. You don't expect harm from the hands you once trusted. When someone turns away not because of your failures, but in spite of your loyalty, the foundation of your world feels like it cracks beneath you. It's tempting to see betrayal as a punishment, as if you did something wrong by caring too much or giving too freely. But that's the illusion. The truth is, betrayal says more about the person who inflicted it than the one who received it. It's not a reflection of your worth, it's a revelation of their limits. And while it may seem like the end of something meaningful, in time it becomes the start of something necessary. Most people treat betrayal like a dead end. But God often uses it as a redirection. The pain, the disillusionment, the quiet nights of questioning, it all becomes part of a sacred process, not to destroy you, but to wake you up. There are certain strengths inside of you that can't emerge when everything is easy. Some parts of you are born only in the fire of disappointment. God allows betrayal not because He wants you to suffer, but because He knows it can shake you out of illusions you've grown too comfortable in. Betrayal pushes you into a place where you can no longer rely on others for your identity. That's where real clarity begins, when the noise dies down, and the crowd that once applauded you vanishes. You're left with something far more honest, yourself. In that silence, you discover a version of you that isn't defined by approval or praise. You begin to build your worth not on the shifting sands of relationships, but on the solid ground of divine truth and self-respect. This shift doesn't happen overnight. There's grief, there's anger, there's a long period of silence where nothing seems to make sense, but slowly your heart starts to breathe again. You begin to see that the very act that wounded you was also what woke you up. It made you examine your values, your boundaries, and your vision, and most importantly, it reminded you that not every loss is a defeat. Some are divine interventions. Betrayal is not the curse it appears to be. In the hands of God it becomes a tool, a chisel that breaks away what is false to reveal what is real. It's not about getting even, it's about rising wiser, stronger, clearer. Not with bitterness, but with a kind of calm that only comes from walking through fire and realizing it didn't burn you, it built you. God does not remove fire, He redefines it. There's a common belief that when we're walking in alignment with faith, we should be shielded from pain. That if God is with us, the fire won't come near. But this belief can lead to confusion when the betrayal arrives, when things fall apart, when those we trusted walk away. The natural question arises, where was God when this happened? But that question often carries a mistaken expectation, that divine love means divine protection from all hardship. The deeper truth is that faith doesn't promise a life free of fire. What it offers instead is transformation through it. God does not always extinguish the fire around us. Sometimes he lets it burn, not to destroy but to redefine. Fire in scripture and in life is a tool of refinement. It purifies, it reshapes. It takes what was once hardened and cold and brings forth something alive, authentic, and strong. The betrayal you faced may have felt like your undoing. It may have appeared to strip everything away, your peace, your certainty, even your sense of identity. But when viewed through a higher lens, that very moment became the beginning of a different process. The fire didn't come to consume who you are. It came to consume what you no longer needed: false attachments, shallow expectations, and people who couldn't walk with you into the next season of your purpose. God's silence during hardship is often misunderstood. It isn't absence, it's presence in a deeper form. When the fire is roaring and everything is shaking, that's not the end of the story. It's the middle of a transformation. What feels like chaos on the outside is often clarity being born on the inside. God allows the fire not because He is indifferent to your pain, but because He knows what the pain can create within your resilience, awareness, humility, and the kind of courage that cannot be faked. Think of a sculptor with a block of metal. The heat is necessary to shape it. Without the flame, there is no form. In the same way, your experience was not random. The betrayal was not beyond God's reach. He took what was meant to harm and turned it into the exact condition required for growth. Not everyone understands how pain can be purposeful, but those who have walked through fire with faith begin to realize that every flame served a purpose. The real shift comes when you stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What is this fire trying to teach me?" That question doesn't erase the pain, but it opens the door to wisdom. It invites you into the process of refinement instead of resistance. It shifts your focus from what was lost to what is being shaped. God redefines the fire by changing what it means. Instead of it being the moment you were broken, it becomes the place you were rebuilt. Not by your own strength alone, but by the quiet force of grace working deep within. That's how betrayal becomes sacred. That's how fire becomes holy. The furnace of growth rarely comes from comfort. It's easy to imagine that we evolve through peaceful seasons, but the truth is often far more complicated. Real growth, the kind that reshapes your character and rewrites your inner compass, emerges from the moments that feel like they're tearing you apart. The betrayal you experienced was not just an emotional wound, it became a furnace, and furnaces don't simply warm, they refine. They burn away what no longer serves, making room for something deeper, stronger, and more lasting. You may not have realized it in the moment, but that heartbreak, that disloyalty, placed you inside a sacred process. At first, it felt like punishment. It felt like everything familiar had been ripped away. But what was really happening was transformation. Not surface-level change, but internal restructuring. The parts of you that once depended on others for validation were being stripped down, so something more authentic could emerge in their place. Inside the furnace, illusions are shattered. You see people for who they really are. You recognize which relationships were genuine and which were built on convenience or control. That clarity is painful, but it's necessary. Because when you step out of the furnace, you do so with eyes that see through pretense and a heart that knows the cost of blind loyalty. You become someone who walks with discernment, not with bitterness, but with wisdom shaped by fire. Many people fear the fire because it represents loss, but they forget that gold is forged in heat. Steel is tempered by flame. The most resilient spirits are not born in ease, they're shaped in the heat of adversity. The furnace doesn't destroy what's true, it reveals it. It brings out qualities in you that you might never have discovered without that betrayal: emotional resilience, quiet strength, and the courage to begin again when nothing feels certain. During this process, you may feel isolated. You may wonder why others don't understand the depth of what you've been through. But growth often happens in solitude. When distractions are stripped away, when external support vanishes, you're forced to lean inward and upward. It's in that sacred stillness that something inside you awakens. The fire pushes you to examine who you are outside of who others expected you to be. Eventually, you emerge, not unchanged but elevated. The betrayal didn't ruin you, it revealed you. It showed you who you were always capable of becoming, had you not been held back by false comfort or unworthy attachments. The fire took what was fragile and rebuilt it with purpose. And now, you carry that strength into every step forward. This is the paradox of the furnace. It feels like destruction, but leads to rebirth. And what others meant for harm becomes the exact tool God uses to prepare you for something greater. That is the power of divine transformation, not escape from pain, but evolution through it. Transformation over vengeance when you've been betrayed. The immediate impulse is to seek justice, not the kind of justice rooted in systems, but the kind that speaks to the ache inside your heart. You want those who wronged you to feel what you felt. You want them to see what they took for granted. That's a natural response. Betrayal leaves behind a sense of imbalance, as if the scale of truth has tilted unfairly. And in that imbalance, a desire for vengeance often starts to grow. But there's a difference between justice and retaliation. One restores dignity. The other keeps you tied to the very pain you're trying to rise above. You begin to realize that chasing revenge doesn't heal the wound, it deepens it. Because in trying to make others hurt the way you did, you remain tethered to them. Your thoughts stay in the past. Your focus remains locked on someone who has already shown they don't value your worth. That is where transformation offers something radical. It doesn't silence the pain. It doesn't pretend the betrayal didn't happen. Instead, it gives you a different question to ask. Not how do I make them pay, but what can I build from what they tried to break? That shift doesn't happen quickly, but when it does, everything changes. The same energy that once burned in anger is redirected into something far more powerful: growth. Choosing transformation means letting the pain teach you without letting it define you. It means standing in the wreckage and deciding to build something better, not for them, but for you. That doesn't mean forgetting what happened or pretending it didn't hurt. It means recognizing that the most lasting answer to betrayal is not revenge, it's reinvention. It's showing yourself and the world that the betrayal didn't end your story. It started a new chapter. This choice to transform rather than retaliate takes strength. It's not weakness to walk away from revenge, it's wisdom. Because in doing so, you take back your power. You stop letting someone else's actions dictate your direction. You reclaim your time, your focus, and your peace. And you give your energy to what truly matters: your healing, your purpose, your next becoming. It's a silent kind of justice, the kind that doesn't announce itself with anger but reveals itself over time. People see the change. They watch the person they underestimated rise, not with a shout, but with grace. That's the kind of response betrayal never expects, and that's the kind of response that leaves a lasting mark, not just on those who wronged you, but on everyone who's watching your journey. In the end, transformation is the higher road, not because it avoids confrontation, but because it seeks elevation. You don't climb by dragging others down. You climb by rising above what tried to hold you back. And that rise, born from pain and fueled by purpose, becomes your greatest testimony. Your fire is the light for others. There's something powerful about walking through fire and still standing. At first, it feels like survival, getting through the day, holding your head up despite the heaviness. But over time, you begin to see something deeper. The fire that once felt like it would consume you starts to glow differently. It's no longer just a symbol of what you endured. It becomes a beacon. What nearly broke you becomes what lights the way for others. It's easy to forget that while you were struggling, someone else was watching, not out of judgment, but because they too were in a silent battle. And when they saw you keep going, when they saw you speak with calmness despite the chaos, when they saw you choose peace over bitterness, they didn't just witness your strength, they saw a path. Your fire became their light. Your endurance reminded them that healing is possible, even when it feels distant. Pain has a way of isolating us. Betrayal, especially, convinces us that we are alone in our suffering. But what you didn't know then was that your journey was not just about you. It was preparing you to be a voice for others who haven't yet found theirs. The wisdom you carry now, the calm that comes from making peace with your past, isn't just your reward. It's your calling to reach back and help others rise too. You may not see yourself as someone with influence. Maybe you think you're still healing, still figuring things out. But even in that process, your honesty, your growth, your quiet courage, those things carry more impact than you realize. You don't need a platform to inspire. You just need to live your truth. And when others see it, they find the courage to live theirs too. That is the hidden power of going through fire. It doesn't just change you. It equips you. You now have insight you didn't have before. You recognize the early signs of manipulation. You understand the value of boundaries. You know the importance of self-respect. And more than anything, you understand how deeply pain can shape a person, and how compassion can meet them there. You survived something that could have silenced you, but instead of closing yourself off, you grew. Instead of letting the fire consume your spirit, you let it refine your vision. And now, what was once your trial becomes your testimony. You no longer need to prove anything to anyone. Just by living in your truth and extending your light, you are already helping others find their way. So remember, your fire has a purpose. It's not just the story of how you were hurt. It's the story of how you healed, how you rose, and how you now carry light into places where others are still learning how to see. That is no small thing. That is legacy.